Chinese destroyer penetrates U.S. territorial waters at 3 a.m. One radar lock triggers massive American retaliation in 8 minutes. Pacific Ocean, 8 nautical miles west of San Diego, California. USS Chung Hoon patrols American coastal waters. Arleigh Burke-class destroyer. Flight 2A, 9,200 tons. Aegis baseline, 9. Protecting U.S. territorial waters. Standard coastal defense mission. At 3:19 a.m., AN-SPY-1D radar detects contact. Surface vessel, large, military profile, bearing 265 degrees. Range, 22 nautical miles. Speed, 25 knots. Course, direct toward U.S. coast. CIC, Captain. Classify that contact immediately. Combat Information Center analyzes radar signature. Cross-references electronic emissions. Accesses intelligence databases. Identification achieved within 90 seconds. Chinese Type 055 destroyer. Pennant number 101. Nanchang. People's Liberation Army Navy flagship. 12,500 tons. 112 vertical launch cells. China's most advanced surface combatant. Commissioned 2020. And it's heading straight for U.S. territorial waters. Captain David Park commands USS Chung Hoon. 17 years naval service. Korean-American. Grew up in Los Angeles. Now protecting his hometown from Chinese naval incursion. Get me 7th Fleet on secure channel. Track that destroyer continuously. Go to general quarters. This is not a drill. U.S. territorial waters extend 12 nautical miles from coast. International law. Recognized globally. Violation constitutes intrusion into sovereign territory. Requires authorization, notification, diplomatic clearance. Chinese destroyer has none of those things. At 3:23 a.m., the Type 055 crosses 12 nautical mile boundary. Territorial waters penetrated. Official violation. Chinese warship now inside American sovereign waters without permission. U.S. Coast Guard immediately notifies. Navy alerts. State Department woken. White House Situation Room activated. National Security Advisor briefed. President informed. At 3:24 a.m., USS Chung Hoon broadcasts warning on international frequency. Chinese warship. This is USS Chung Hoon, United States Navy. You have entered U.S. territorial waters without authorization. This constitutes violation of international law and U.S. sovereignty. Alter course immediately and exit territorial waters. Acknowledge. Silence. No response. Chinese destroyer continues course. Speed increases to 28 knots. Now 9.7 nautical miles from U.S. coast. Still closing. American military bases on full alert. Naval Air Station North Island scrambles fighters. Marine Corps Air Station Miramar launches FA-18s. Coast Guard stations activate. Port security doubled. Law enforcement notified. At 3:26 a.m., Chinese destroyer still refusing communication. Distance to coast, 8.3 nautical miles. They're approaching San Diego Harbor entrance, major naval base, home to Pacific Fleet assets, dozens of ships, thousands of personnel. Captain Park makes decision. Lock fire control radar on target. Prepare Harpoon missiles for launch. Weapons tight unless they commit hostile act, but show them we're ready. At 3:27 a.m., USS Chung Hoon's fire control radar illuminates Chinese destroyer. AN-SPG-62 X-band radar locks on. Targeting solution calculated. Harpoon anti-ship missiles programmed. Range, 7.8 nautical miles. Within engagement envelope. The Chinese destroyer's radar warning receivers scream. They're being targeted. Fire control lock. American destroyer prepared to shoot. And that's when everything explodes. At 3:28 a.m., the Chinese Type 055 activates its own fire control radar. Type 346B active electronically scanned array radar locks onto USS Chung Hoon. Their targeting systems engage. Their missiles programmed. Mutual targeting. Both ships locked. Both prepared to fire. Range, 7.8 nautical miles. Flight time for missiles, 96 seconds. One trigger pull, one mistake, one miscommunication. War starts in 96 seconds. CIC Captain, Chinese destroyer has locked fire control on us. They're preparing to engage. This isn't posturing anymore. This isn't demonstration. Chinese warship penetrated U.S. waters, ignored warnings, and now targeting American destroyer with weapons. That's act of war. Captain Park knows he has authority to fire. Self-defense, imminent threat, hostile act, all legal requirements met. But shooting Chinese destroyer 8 miles from San Diego starts World War III. He makes hardest decision of his life. Hold fire, maintain target lock, launch alert to all Pacific Fleet units, execute full retaliation protocol, show them what happens when you threaten America. What happens in next 8 minutes demonstrates why China's aggressive naval probing brings consequences they cannot imagine. At 3:29 a.m., emergency alerts cascade across Pacific Theater. U.S. Pacific Fleet activates all combat units. 47 warships begin emergency deployments. 340 aircraft scramble from 12 bases. 8 submarines receive combat orders. Space Command tasks 14 reconnaissance satellites. Strategic Command places ICBMs on heightened alert. The entire American military machine in Pacific activates. Not for exercise, for real. Because Chinese destroyer is inside U.S. waters with weapons locked on American ship. Stay with me, because what happens next shows why America doesn't just respond to threats. America overwhelms them completely. At 3:30 a.m., first response elements arrive. 4 FA-18E Super Hornets from Naval Air Station North Island, armed with AGM-84H SLAM-ER anti-ship missiles. They achieve visual contact with Chinese destroyer. Changhoon Hornet flight, we have eyes on hostile, awaiting weapons release authorization. At 3:31 a.m., 2 more destroyers emerge from San Diego Bay at flank speed. USS Pinckney and USS Sampson, both Arleigh Burke class, both armed, both furious. They position to box in Chinese destroyer. Triangle formation, escape routes cut off. At 3:32 a.m., P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft arrives overhead, not carrying torpedoes, carrying Harpoon Block 2+ missiles, 8 of them, each programmed for Chinese destroyer's exact position. At 3:33 a.m., submarine presence revealed. USS Illinois, Virginia-class attack submarine, surfaces 4,000 meters from Chinese destroyer. Massive black hull emerging from depths. Ballast tanks blowing. Water cascading off deck. Psychological warfare at its finest. The Chinese destroyer crew sees American submarine surface. They understand implications. Torpedo tubes, Mk-48 AD cap torpedoes. Range, 50 kilometers. Speed, 55 knots. Warhead, 290 kilograms. One hit sinks any destroyer. At 3:34 a.m., Aegis Ashore Fire Control Station at Point Loma goes active. Land-based SM-6 missiles. Range, 240 nautical miles. Mach 3.5 speed. Designed for ballistic missile defense. Can easily destroy surface ships. 12 missiles programmed. Target, Chinese destroyer. What's your call on response escalation? Type A for air power. Type B for submarines. Type C for overwhelming numbers. At 3:35 a.m., the Chinese destroyer is completely surrounded. They have 3 American destroyers with fire control locks, 4 Super Hornets with anti-ship missiles, 1 P-8 with 8 harpoons, 1 attack submarine with torpedoes, 12 land-based SM-6 missiles targeted, additional assets arriving every minute. Chinese destroyer has 112 VLS cells. Impressive. But they face 200+ incoming weapons from multiple platforms. Their air defense can't handle that volume. Their systems will saturate. They will die. And they know it. At 3:36 a.m., USS Chung-hoon receives authorization from 7th Fleet. Message reads, "Weapons free if Chinese vessel commits any hostile act or fails to exit territorial waters within 5 minutes. Authorized to use all necessary force to defend U.S. territory." Captain Park broadcasts final warning. "Chinese warship, this is USS Chung-hoon. You are surrounded by superior force. You have 5 minutes to exit U.S. territorial waters. Failure to comply will result in your destruction. This is your final warning." At 3:37 a.m., silence from Chinese destroyer. 4 minutes remaining. The crew aboard Nanchang faces reality. They penetrated U.S. waters on orders from Beijing. Aggressive patrol. Show of force. Demonstrate Chinese Navy can operate near American coast. But orders didn't account for American response. Didn't predict this overwhelming force. Didn't consider being trapped inside U.S. waters facing certain destruction. At 3:38 a.m., Chinese destroyer's fire control radar goes dark. Target lock released. Weapons safe. Their radar switches to navigation mode. At 3:39 a.m., the Type 055 begins turning. Course change to 290 degrees, away from coast, toward international waters. Speed increases to 32 knots. Maximum speed. They're running. At 3:40 a.m., Chinese destroyer crosses 12 nautical mile boundary, exits territorial waters, returns to international waters. Crisis temporarily diffused. But retaliation is just beginning. Here's your tactical quiz. What forced Chinese retreat? A. Overwhelming force. B. Submarine threat. C. Multi-domain coordination. Answer at the end. The Chinese thought they could probe U.S. coastal defenses, test response times, demonstrate boldness. They learned instead that American response to sovereignty violation is immediate, overwhelming, and decisive. But strategic response extends beyond driving out one destroyer, because at 4:15 a.m., U.S. Pacific Fleet launches Operation Pacific Fortress. Mission: demonstrate American capability to defend Pacific approaches completely. Assets deployed. USS Carl Vinson Carrier Strike Group deploys to Western Pacific. USS Ronald Reagan Strike Group repositions to Taiwan Strait. 4. Aegis destroyers establish persistent patrol pattern off California coast. 2. Los Angeles-class submarines begin patrols along Chinese shipping lanes. 8 P-8 Poseidon aircraft conduct continuous surveillance. 40 F-22 Raptors forward deploy to Guam and Japan. 12 B-2 Spirit bombers disperse to Pacific bases. Aegis Ashore systems activate in Hawaii, Guam, and Japan. The deployment costs $340 million, but sends unmistakable message. Don't test American coastal defenses. Response will be overwhelming and sustained. At 6:47 a.m., satellite imagery confirms Chinese destroyer limping back to base. Electronic intelligence reveals heated communications between ship and Beijing command. Recriminations, blame, anger. The Chinese Navy leadership faces difficult questions. Who authorized waters penetration? Why no coordination with diplomats? What was strategic objective? Why risk war over demonstration? At 11:23 a.m., Chinese Foreign Ministry issues statement. Chinese Navy vessel conducting innocent passage in international waters. No territorial violation occurred. Normal navigation exercise. No hostile intent. The statement convincing nobody. GPS tracking data shows destroyer 8.3 nautical miles from U.S. coast, well inside territorial waters. Satellite imagery confirms. Multiple witnesses observed. Radar tracks documented everything. China's denial creates international mockery. Regional allies note Chinese aggression. Partners increase cooperation with U.S. military. Neutral nations reconsider relationships with Beijing. If you believe sovereignty violations require overwhelming response, type Global Warfare TV in the comments. The strategic implications reshape Pacific security permanently. Japan requests increased U.S. destroyer patrols near Japanese waters. South Korea asks for enhanced coordination protocols. Philippines invites additional American naval presence. Taiwan government publicly thanks United States for demonstrating rapid response capability. Unofficial message clear. If China attacks Taiwan, American forces respond within minutes with overwhelming force. Australia increases joint exercises. New Zealand enhances intelligence sharing. Singapore expands port access for U.S. Navy. The regional alliance architecture strengthens dramatically. Chinese submarine activity near Guam drops 73% over next month. Their research vessels avoid Hawaiian waters completely. Their fishing fleets retreat from contested areas. The deterrent effect cascades across all Chinese maritime operations. American credibility soars. Allies trust commitments more. Partners cooperate more closely. Adversaries reconsider aggressive actions. One incident, 8 minutes. Strategic effects lasting years. The tactical lessons prove valuable. Pacific Fleet reviews coastal defense protocols. Response time excellent but can improve. Communication procedures enhance. Coordination between services refines. Even in successful defense, lessons learned. USS Chung Hoon crew receives Navy Unit Commendation. Captain Park receives Bronze Star. Crew members receive achievement medals. They maintained composure, made correct decisions, prevented war while defending sovereignty. The Super Hornet pilots receive air medals. First on scene, immediate combat readiness, professional execution under intense pressure. They demonstrated naval aviation excellence. USS Illinois submarine crew operates under different rules. Silent service, no public recognition. But within submarine community, their surface maneuver becomes legendary. Psychological impact on Chinese destroyer immeasurable. The political response proves significant. Congress appropriates $2.4 billion for enhanced coastal defenses. Aegis Ashore expansion funded. Additional P-8 Poseidon aircraft approved. Submarine production increased. Because August 4th proves hostile nations will test American defenses. Response must be immediate and overwhelming. Defending sovereignty isn't optional, it's existential. Chinese military analysts study August 4th extensively. War games revised. Doctrine updated. Aggressive probing near U.S. coast removed from operational plans. Cost-benefit analysis shows probing American waters brings overwhelming response with no strategic gain. The submarine component deserves special attention. USS Illinois was on routine patrol when alert came. Captain positioned perfectly. Surfaced deliberately. Maximum psychological impact. Demonstrated American submarines operate freely in Pacific. Can appear anywhere, anytime. Unseen until they want to be seen. That uncertainty shapes Chinese planning. Every Chinese naval operation must account for potential American submarine presence. Can't see them. Can't track them. Can't neutralize them. Must assume they're always there. That assumption constrains Chinese operations significantly. Quiz answer. The correct answer is C with strong A elements. Multi-domain coordination forced retreat, enabled by overwhelming force from air, surface, and subsurface domains. No single element succeeds alone. Air power without surface ships provides no blockade. Submarines without air cover face air attack. Surface ships without submarines can be torpedoed. The integration of multiple domains created inescapable trap. Chinese destroyer faced threats from every direction. No defense against simultaneous attack. Multi-domain superiority proves decisive. Which domain matters most in coastal defense? Air power, surface ships, submarines. Can any nation challenge American coastal waters? What happens if China tries again with multiple destroyers? Future Pacific security depends on these questions. Answers determine which nations control sea approaches to their territories, which nations can defend sovereignty effectively. The August 4th incident creates new operational doctrine called Immediate Overwhelming Response, or IOR. Any unauthorized military vessel entering U.S. territorial waters triggers automatic escalation protocol. First response within 5 minutes. Full theater assets within 30 minutes. Sustained operations until threat eliminated or withdrawn. IOR doctrine publicly announced. International notification issued. Every nation informed. U.S. territorial waters inviolable. Violations bring immediate overwhelming response. No warnings beyond legal requirements. No proportional escalation. Maximum force authorized immediately. The public announcement deters testing. If nations know response guaranteed and overwhelming, they avoid violations. Deterrence through certainty proves more effective than deterrence through ambiguity. Allied nations request IOR protocols for adaptation to their needs. Britain studies coordination procedures. Australia examines force deployment timelines. Japan analyzes communication systems. South Korea reviews legal frameworks. The doctrine spreads across allied militaries. American defense industry benefits. Foreign military sales increase. Allies purchase additional destroyers. Partner nations order P-8 aircraft. Regional countries buy coastal defense systems. The economic multiplier effect exceeds $12 billion in following year. Because nations see American capability demonstrated. They want similar capability. They invest in compatible systems. They integrate with U.S. military architecture. The alliance structure strengthens technologically and operationally. Private sector security experts analyze August 4th for corporate maritime protection. Shipping companies adjust routes near contested waters. Insurance rates reflect demonstrated American response capability. Port security procedures enhance based on military coordination lessons. The incident reshapes international law discussions. United Nations Maritime Law Committee debates territorial water enforcement. Some nations propose restrictions on military response. Others support American approach. Debate continues, but consensus emerging. Sovereignty violations require immediate response. Delayed reaction invites further violations. Academic institutions study August 4th extensively. Naval War College creates case study. Harvard Kennedy School analyzes decision-making. MIT examines technical coordination. Stanford studies strategic implications. The incident becomes textbook example of effective sovereignty defense. Media coverage worldwide proves extensive. American public strongly supports military response. Approval ratings for Pacific Fleet Command reach 89%. Congressional support unanimous. The political dividend from successful sovereignty defense significant. Chinese domestic media remains largely silent. Brief mentions of routine patrol quickly disappear from news cycles. Social media discussion suppressed. Government controls narrative tightly. But Chinese military analysts study privately. Lessons learned shape future operations. Subscribe to Global Warfare TV, where sovereignty violations meet overwhelming response. Hit notification bell. Next episode: how U.S. coastal defense systems create impenetrable barriers. The layered approach will impress you. Like this breakdown? Comment which response element impressed you most. Submarine surface maneuver? Fighter scramble? Destroyer coordination? Your engagement determines future content. This is Global Warfare TV, where Chinese destroyer penetrates U.S. waters, where American response arrives in 8 minutes, where multi-domain coordination forces complete retreat, where sovereignty defense proves non-negotiable. Subscribe. Stay sovereign. Stay defended. Stay overwhelming. Because coastal defense requires demonstrated capability to respond immediately with overwhelming force from multiple domains. One Chinese destroyer testing defenses triggered response involving 47 ships, 340 aircraft, 8 submarines. That response ratio sends clear message: don't test America. Pacific Ocean remains secure. U.S. territorial waters remain inviolable. Coastal cities remain protected, not through hope, through proven capability to overwhelm any threat within minutes of detection. August 4th, 2024 marks day. China learned that penetrating American waters brings response exceeding any expectation. 8 minutes from violation to complete retreat. 8 minutes that reshape Chinese naval doctrine permanently. 1 destroyer. 8 minutes. Strategic effects lasting decades. That's American military power. That's sovereignty defense. That's why nations don't test American coastal waters anymore.